Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Super License F1 podcast. My name's Rodney.
And my name is Zach.
Zach, look at us. We're doing a fucking podcast. I'm talking to you for reals. It's been a while.
Yeah. It's been a while. I am now Mr. Zachary Priest.
Mr. Zachary Priest.
To
Congrats.
Master Zachary Priest. Yep. I'm a married man. I'm at the... It feels like, and this is not literal, it feels like I'm at the big boy table now. I feel like I really am a Formula man.
Oof. Wow. I look forward to that
Not just
one day.
a Formula boy.
I guess being a dad, that gives me man credentials. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's many
there you
routes into... It's like a points-based system, right? Like it's depending on... It's like your super license. You know, you can get points through multiple categories. You don't have to come through Formula 2. You know, you can get your points through DTM. You can get it through testing. You know, there are lots of things. As long as you've done some man points.
Yes.
And it comes in multiple varieties. You know, you can get it any way possible. And if you just... You know what? And sometimes it's just enough to think of yourself as a man. I think that that's self-affirming and good. So, you know what?
Okay.
We're all here.
Sure. And I mean, you know, all gender identities and, you know, we're all non-binaries, supportive and everything, but being man, yeah, I like it. It's good. It's been a little while since we spoke. As you said, you got married, so congrats, ring ding 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 and all the rest of it. So happy for you. And so I'm just, you know, really thrilled. And you've been traveling, been a little bit sick. So there's been a lot going on. That's why we haven't done a show for a little while. But I believe, Zach, you're fully recovered now. Is that correct?
Pretty much. Yeah, you know, as much as you can. I wouldn't be leaping into, we're talking pre-show, I don't think I'm going to be leaping into like any marathons or Formula One races.
Okay.
Definitely not probably equipped to do, say, a Le Mans 24, anything like that. But, you know, if I could do a sprint race, I could sprint.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you didn't get long COVID. I'm very sorry to hear that you got thick COVID. That's not cool. But, I mean, I guess you can't win them all, can you? We have a show to do. We're going to be talking about a couple of races. We've got a bit of catching up to do. So we're going to talk about the themes for the last couple of races in the last month or so since we've been talking about races and stuff. We've got a couple of stories to kick things off. You got a super quiz later, Zach. Can't believe it, the return of the super quiz. I always love a super quiz. We've got a couple of quick stories, though, just to get us in the mood. A couple of quickies. I can't decide if these are better quickies or innies, because if we have innies, then we can have stories later that are outies, but I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, a couple of quick stories to kick off. One you shared in the Slack, so I thought that can be your innie. I dubbed you in for that one. The one that I thought was interesting that caught my eye was Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton receives a Brazilian citizenship. What were you thinking? It's quite the mental image when I flicked through my Twitter feed and half read Hamilton to receive a Brazilian. But he's been given an honorary Brazilian citizenship by their government. They passed a bill and everything. Pele commented. He logged on just to comment on Twitter to say it was a good thing. So yeah, I mean, and apparently Hamilton was speechless. I can only assume that this is something to do with recognition for him, but also the brethren, the kinship of the Brazilian Formula One fans, in particular Senna, and the legacy that he leaves, and so on and so forth. But I don't know. Maybe they just want him to go and live there, spend some time there, spend some dosh. Don't know.
What a way to get someone's attention. Like, because I feel like it feels similar to when you get, you know, your honorary doctorate from university. You know, like, oh, well, you're not really an engineer, but we'll give you an honorary doctorate in engineering. I think when I graduated, the guy who hosts Grand Designs Australia got an honorary my architectural design degree or doctorate. I don't, you know, honorary citizen. Does that mean he like? Does he get can he get a Brazilian passport? Like this is no joking matter. This is pretty serious.
I guess he probably can come and go as he pleases. What's the point of a citizenship? You don't need a visa to enter the country. Is that the idea? You still need a visa if you're a citizen, right?
Well,
don't you?
No, if you're a citizen, you don't. No. Right? Like I'm an Australian citizen. I don't need a visa to come to Australia. I've got an Australian passport.
Maybe that's all it is. So
and you get like you're treated as a citizen. Like, you know, you can get public funds. You know, if you get yourself in a tight bind, they might come and save you.
Not if you're an Australian citizen and you do the wrong thing. That just doesn't happen.
Australia's Foreign Office is actually pretty good, apparently. But they won't. Yeah. I've been told the Australian Foreign Office has put out multiple times that you can't go to the embassy in any city and ask them to look after your luggage. Apparently that's what people do. They turn up at consulates and they're like, my flight's not till 10 p.m. tonight, but I had to check out of my hotel at 11 a.m.
That you look after my suitcase.
Yeah. I am an Australian citizen. You said you would help me in a bind. This is the bind.
I'm in a bind.
I want to go on a boat tour, and
His
I can't take
arms.
my bag.
Oof.
Look after it. Totally bound. So yeah, maybe this means that Hamilton gets a nicer hotel upgrade when he's at the Brisbane Grand Prix.
That's probably what it is. He's a Vic. He's a very important citizen. Zach, have you got a quickie story you want to get us into the mood with?
Yeah, old mate Brad Pitt's going to be in a Formula One film for Apple that they're making, and this is always gets me, right? Like, Jerry Bruckheimer's going to produce it of what he's done everything, right? Pirates of the Caribbean,
basically
and
everything.
sundries. Everything good. All of Formula Men's favourite movies. Super License's favourite movies. And Lewis Hamilton's going to be producer too. Good for him. I think that's a good idea. The other guy, the Kalinske or whatever his name is from the new Top Gun film, Young Top Gun, I think is what he's called. That's his name. Is going to be. I assume he's going to be the driver, and Brad Pitt's going to be like a Fernando Alonso figure or team principal.
Maybe
that kind of thing. Who would you? Do you want to do some stunt casting?
Yeah, for sure. So who do we have to cast?
I think we need to cast if we're going to make this, I think we need to cast 2 drivers, a villain, and a team principal.
So two likable, friendly, like brothers in arms behind the wheel. Mm-hmm. Do you want to do one? I'll do the other one.
Yeah, you can choose who you want to. Who is who?
So
you can pick who you
like.
Want.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want The Rock. I want The Rock. Just got that Formula One driver physique as Rock Rockington. The lead driver.
Is he playing the lead driver?
He's the reigning world champion
for Jumanji Racing.
Yeah. And he drives a special car that is 3 times as wide as all the other cars.
The Hummer Racing, actually. It's huge.
It's basically, yes.
Ford F350 Racing. Here it is, the world's biggest car. I like it almost the idea that he would be more like an Adrian Newey figure, and he comes in with a groundbreaking new design, and he's like, "This is my design," and it's huge. Takes the whole width of the.
I do like the
idea
track. That people are like, "Oh, you must work out all the time." He's like, "Actually, never do. I eat really well."
Yeah. I eat other animals' muscles, and they get turned into muscles.
Who is your friendly driver?
Oh God, I mean, I feel like I want someone like the complete opposite of that. Maybe we should just go really basic and just like pick Timothée Chalamet as the more slightly airy-fairy. He's hot right now, so hot right now. And a lighter, more deft touch. Almost more like a Le Charles Leclerc figure, I think. That's a pretty easy casting. But as the supporting up-and-coming who needs some help from The Rock, The Rock knows the old school Formula One, the bash and crash, get your elbows out. And maybe he needs to, Timothée Chalamet needs to learn that part of driving because he's had it easy up until this point.
Sure.
Hit me with a team principal though, Rod.
A team principal. So we want someone a little bit older. Oh, it's got to be... goddamn, what's the guy's name? He's old. Everyone loves him. Stanley Tucci. Stanley Tucci is the team principal. Stanley Tucci.
I got his cookbook for my birthday.
Oh, wow. Cool.
An autobiography kind of thing. Yeah, I love the Tooch. Yes.
Well, everyone does. That's why he's a great idea. He's a great...
It's like a Bonotto, but also kind of a little bit...
More like a Bieso.
Steiner. Well, yeah, I like this. I like this a lot. Does that mean, do you want me to pick the villain then?
Yeah.
Oh, good villain. I could actually. I'm gonna pick 2. I'm gonna pick Steve Carell as the villainous team principal.
Yeah. Okay.
And like hardcore like American team as well.
Yeah,
like he's he's an evil Ted Lasso. Like he's like, you know what? Fuck these guys. We're gonna Formula One's a European mess. We're gonna nail it with this. Like you know when Steve Carell can be like really like he can really flip and be really mean and horrible.
Sure.
Or maybe more crazed like he is in what's the one about the financial crisis? What's that one called?
Oh, The Big Short.
The Big Short. Yeah, that kind of character where he was both had empathy, but he was also like really frustrated with the system.
Sure.
I think like that. If you could channel that kind of thing. What about villainous driver then for the Steve Carell team? Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah,
it's a star-studded cast.
Like he wins a race and he's up on top step of the dais, and then he like dances down the steps Batman style, Joker style.
So, like,
Maybe.
flamboyant, but also, like he's
like
very
aloof
naturally
and
gifted.
Impenetrable.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. And I think that it could be a love story. I think that Timothée Chalamet falls in love with the
female lead
Joaquin
who
Phoenix.
is with
No,
Joaquin Phoenix.
doesn't need a female lead.
There you go.
Doesn't need a female lead.
Well, I mean,
No, we're
we're
going to have strong female characters who talk to each other about people that aren't the men in the show as well.
That's totally valid, but also there's no women in that cast so far.
Yeah,
so
we haven't casted it anything
We
yet.
need a couple around the place.
Okay, what's a better, improved story? So maybe this is just all the
Story's
subplot.
fine. Just inject some diversity in there.
Okay. What about we'll stick a female driver in the villainous team?
Yeah,
I think that's
excellent.
a good move.
Love it.
You know, maybe the villain is not. Maybe Joaquin Phoenix is slightly villainous, but then there's the real villain is another woman. Maybe who will we cast there? Oh, there's some good options.
Someone with smoky eyes and a bit mischievous.
I mean, Emma Stone, I think, would be a good fit for an American team.
I think she's
nail that role.
she's light. I think she'd go fast in the car. It's
Yeah.
like to her advantage, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Joaquin is not light, so I think I like that both teams have a heavier driver and a lighter driver. That's the rules
how it
in
works.
Formula One.
There's
Can
weight
have big
limits,
driver
but it's
and little
across the
driver.
whole team, so you can
Yes.
have one heavy and one light.
Yeah, and one car's got a maximum weight, one has a minimum weight. And they're the same weight.
One team has Shaq and the other one has Muggsy Bogues.
And then I think
great.
maybe the head of the FIA, something like that.
Yes.
That
Love
kind
this.
of role
Meryl
is a
Streep.
woman who's then trying to balance the sport, or maybe like whoever owns the sport, Liberty F1 style person could be a woman who's like trying to like all the crisis is happening and that person is trying to maintain the facade of F1, but the whole idea of Formula One is being challenged, and this person's going through like an existential crisis on behalf of both the fans watching the movie, but also on behalf of the existing structure.
Yes.
Which could be like a Tilda Swinton, something like that.
Yeah. I also had Swinton on the mind.
Yeah, we're just casting our favourite actors. That's
There
fair
we
enough.
go. Basically, yeah. Well, green light. I mean, that's going to go ahead. Should we move on?
This is what
Next
this
thing
show's about, right? That was a quickie, an
The
innie.
show is 5 hours long. Next thing I've got up is another last little quickie. It's so true. This will be a quickie because I don't have too many. Got a couple of screenshots of my phone though. So one is this is so true. This is where we point out people who say things that are so true. And the other thing that this is also like if someone makes a joke and then someone writes up a story about it as if they've said it earnestly, we also call it out. But this is sort of like 2 in 1. This is a tweet from the Formula E account quoting Stoffel Van Dorn saying, next up is a completely different circuit. So true, Stoff. And Formula E, you've just written that up legitimately. The other thing was, after Albon did well at Miami, he dyed his hair red for that race. So, I mean, literally, this is from Formula1.com. Lucky red hair, quote, here to stay, jokes Albon after snaring P9. You know that he's joking. So why? And you even put in the headline that he's joking. Why is that a headline? I don't understand.
Because sport's boring and people need to make up news, I suppose.
It can be. It's what it is. It's like, I've got to write 5 stories today. Well, give me something interesting. Oh, someone joked about their red hair. Excellent. That's going to be a story. Like, it's not. It's not. It's not. Casting a fake F1 movie, that's a story.
That's a story.
Yes.
That's something. I watched, as is my tradition, watched a little bit of Le Mans 24 this weekend, but mainly listened to it on Radio Le Mans. I suggest this every year.
You do.
Open up your tune-in radio,
Every year, I
or
never
get it
do.
on your phone, website, whatever, and listen to Radio Le Mans. It's amazing, especially in the night and first thing in the morning. And it was a great race this year. I think I'm going to put it on my list of things to do. Go to Le Mans one year and camp out. Anyway, Martin Brundle. At one point I heard his voice. I was like, "Is Martin Brundle? I know, like, is he not at Formula One this weekend because he's commentating Le Mans?" No. He was just being interviewed, and they were like, "Oh, what are you here for? You're here to give advice
What are you
to
here
your
for?"
son." Yeah, Alex. is
Probably
racing,
the race.
Yeah, and
watching
Martin
the race.
Brundle answered the question beautifully. He's like, "Well, first and foremost, I'm here as like a petrol head. Like, this is one of the best races in the world, like best events and racing events in the world. So I'm here first and foremost because I can be, and it's amazing to be here. But also, secondly, like to the question of like supporting my son, he's a grown man. He's 31, very experienced professional driver. He's better than me. What would I possibly have to tell him? And it was like, so true. Hang on. Like, exactly what I wanted to hear from him. He's like,
he's
kid's
in
a
Le
grown
Mans,
man.
I'm not.
Like, he's 31. He's in Le Mans. He's raced his whole life.
He's a grown-ass man.
What could I possibly tell him?
He's a Formula man, like qualified, bona fide.
I can imagine that Martin Brundle had run out of advice by the time his son was about 15. Would have just been like, well, here we go. That's all I got. I'm tapped. See you later. You'll hear me on Sundays on Sky.
When I'm doing the grid walk.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, could you tell me who the famous people are every week so that I know who they are?
Text me who I'm talking to, and maybe a question.
Now, is Tame Impala a person or a band? I'm still confused.
Tame, can I have a word? Can I have a word?
Mr. Impala.
Mr. Impala. No, Mr. Impala's my bandmate. I'm Tame. Well, excellent contribution. Thank you so much. We, you can, and people are always welcome to email or tweet us their versions of their things that they've noticed that are so true that have popped up in the coverage or they've read or a tweet or whatever. But it's into the main stories now, Zach. Some people say we should have a theme. I tell them to go pound the sand. We're not going to make a theme. Anyway, main stories from the last couple of races or last weeks or whatever. This one is one of your contributions. Teams thinking that they may not be able to compete at every race because of the cost cap. I mean, I think not competing is maybe like really exaggerating the situation. But I mean, there are a lot of teams. Red Bull has been one of the latest ones who have been very vocal about the cost cap and exceeding it. My understanding is that Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, and Red Bull have said they will all exceed the cost cap this year, which is like, pretty sure that's not the point of a cost cap. If you just exceed it, it's not really a cap then, is it?
I'm definitely going to steal a whole bunch of beer from my local shop because I'm just telling you now.
I'm going to buy a slab. I might exceed taking 24 cans. I might take 30.
That's just what's going to happen. I'm telling you, so you can't be mad at me.
I'm telling you, so what are you going to do about it?
So change the rules. I mean, they are saying they're going to miss Christian Horner was like, at this rate, we're going to miss the last 4 races. It's like, come on.
They won't miss the races.
You won't. Maybe they'll have such a lead, though, that they can. That would be an amazing point to prove.
That was more what I was thinking. If they were like, we've won the championship, we've won the Constructors, Max is world champion, there's 4 races left. See you next year, suckers. I mean, that would be... Exactly. That is a baller move.
I would still turn up, but as a fan and not as
we'd just sit there and watch with the best seats in the house.
From the garage. I love that. Yeah, do the grid walk, just be hanging out.
Inflatable pool in the garage.
Didn't need it.
Just talking to drivers on the radio. G'day, how's it going out there?
Christian Horner parks his own car in the garage because he's got the spot, right? Might as well just park right there.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously the cost cap. The idea of the cost cap was to reduce the running costs of the teams. They've had plenty of notice, but for some reason they've gotten to this point of the year and realized, whoopsie doopsie, we forgot to adhere to it. A lot of them, I heard at least 2 of the teams saying, well, there's just fixed costs that we have to commit to at the start of the year. And then these other things came up throughout the year. So what are we supposed to do? It's like, well, what you're supposed to do is run your fixed costs at such a point that if unexpected costs come up, you got it covered. That's what everybody has to do with their money. That's just how money works.
Yeah. It's like speed limits, right? It's like, yeah, but the speed limit's 60, so I'm going 60. I can't go any slower than that. It's like, well,
you sort of could.
Actually. It's the maximum.
Or faster.
The limit. And this is the cost cap, the limit. So if you can run it's almost like there might be a competitive advantage if you could keep your fixed cost low as possible so that you've got more flexibility in your contract throughout the season to respond to change. On the rich teams being like, we're going to all exceed it. It's like, yeah, so it's functioning. So it's keeping, it's making it more competitive because you can't do your normal shit to just win. Like, maybe you can't come to the last 4 races interesting because you've won all of these races recently. Might you be spending so much and winning races now, we can't afford to come to the end?
Yes.
It's like, maybe those teams that can afford to do that are spreading their costs.
Maybe they should get some bonus. Yes.
Yeah.
Where I think this gets really interesting is a bit of a segue into the next point, which is the cars porpoising and the drivers ending up getting injured and so on. And all of this talk now is things are so bad in the cars and for the drivers that maybe we should be changing the rules. Now, Red Bull have been very, very vocal. The rules should not change, and we have done a good job.
Because we are winning.
Exactly. We have done a good job, so we shouldn't be penalised by the rules changing, except for the cost cap, where we have done a bad job and we think those rules should change. So there's a real hypocrisy. I mean, surprise, surprise, Red Bull hypocrisy. Who would have thought?
No,
but exactly. But these 2 points, I think, are really closely interlinked. But we've done cost cap justice. We should probably talk about the other one. Obviously, everyone knows the cars are jumping up and down like pogo sticks going down the straights. Mostly came to a head this weekend with Lewis Hamilton, like basically needing like a crane to get out of that car, and even rumors that he may not. I mean, this is another time when Hamilton just plays the media beautifully, where there's all these rumors after the race, Hamilton may not race in Canada. And then all the headlines are, Hamilton may miss Canada. And then he comes out and he says, I'm going to race in Canada. And they're like, Hamilton triumphantly announces that he's going to be racing in Canada.
What a hero.
He just plays that news cycle so well. But he didn't look very well. And a few other drivers have said, yeah, it's really, really bad. Pierre Gasly in particular said, we don't want Formula One drivers walking around with a cane when they're 30 because of this. No. Something's got to be done. But I mean, look, I don't want to be like too much of a hardline badass or whatever, but it's like, the teams who have built really good cars have less of a problem with this because they built such good cars, and all the cars that have got problems could go slower. They just don't want to, and that would fix that problem. So I just don't really know. There's no easy solution there.
Yeah, I like taking these things to the extreme. It's like, okay, let's say Mercedes car, after 40 laps, bursts into flames 50% of the time. Do you think they would be sending the drivers out in those cars to hurt themselves? Or do you think they would be like, you know what?
If they had a 50% chance of winning, they would.
Yeah, 100%. And I bet you the drivers would be like, well, I'm a risk taker. That's why I'm in Formula One. Sometimes the car's going to, explode. That's a normal risk. It's like, yeah, but come on. Like, if you just went, you could engineer your way out of this problem. And if you went 5 kilometers an hour slower, there's a 0% chance of happening. No. We're only here to compete to win races. It's
so frustrating.
I'm not... well, actually, more and more, I think that the conversation around like sports, people's place in sports, and this might be too long of a bow to draw.
Go
but
slow.
Like, for example, like sports people like refusing to give interviews because they're too invasive, or sports people asking to be paid equally. Now, these are not the same thing, but I think they fit in the same group of things, which is sports people having a voice as opposed to just being like a part of the entertainment or just a part of the sport. Is actually they're like, without the sports people, like, it's not anything. Like, you can't actually take them away, and they should. I think that the balance of power has shifted away in a lot of sports away from people, like from the people who are actually playing in the sports. I think in European football we see footballers playing just like endless games. They're playing like international games right now, and they haven't had a break since we came back from COVID. And, we're not even thinking about their, like, for example, like having the World Cup in Qatar. It's still going to be super fucking hot. These players are going to be middle of the season. We're not thinking about their welfare. And I don't think that Lewis Hamilton being like, look, I can fucking barely walk after 2 hours of sitting in that car. I think that's a very reasonable complaint. And I think that it goes in the same category as drivers being like, this sport is dangerous. We need to improve its health and safety. That doesn't mean I'm not going to race. It just means I'm pointing it out. Please listen, and let's try to make changes and try to accommodate those changes.
I mean, they were all talking they're all pointing the finger and accusing the FIA, though, when really their teams could take it into their own hands to say, we can go slower and this will not happen, but none of them are doing that. And I mean, that's not a good situation to be in. This is obviously not a good outcome from these aero regulation changes, but this is where we're at, and this is the fact of it. I mean, the one solution is obviously like standard heights across all the cars, and then the cars won't porpoise. Everybody is on a level playing field. The problem is there are cars that already aren't porpoising or as badly, and they're really quick and they're good to drive. Again, why should they be penalised? The Formula One has always been like that. If you design a car that's 5 seconds faster than the other one, well, congratulations to you. We won't at first take any steps to penalise you until everyone gets bored of watching you win, and then we will. But we're not there yet. No.
Exactly. I mean, they could just make it, standard. Your car can't porpoise that much. It's not allowed. So you can't race. I mean, this is the thing. It's not like Lewis Hamilton can then say to Mercedes or any driver can't be like, you know what? I get too sore in the car. I'm not going to race because of fear of life-threatening injuries. They'll just go, okay, well, we'll find literally anyone to do it, because I bet you there are thousands of people who will risk the back injury to drive the car. This is what I mean. He has basically no bargaining power, especially while they're not winning either. It would be like, all right, well, I'm sure fucking Pascal Wehrlein will jump in the car. Stoffel Van Dorn will jump in the car. Daniel Kvyat will jump in the car. Any of them will do it. So you don't want to race? Fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I
don't think it's that
FIA,
simple. I'm absolutely reducing it. But,
if the FIA came out and said, we're going to disqualify any car that has too much porpoising, then that will solve this problem. And then, they would fix it quick, smart. Don't worry about it. The other thing on drivers stepping into the car, I did notice people pointing out that Toto Wolff was very vocal in saying, yeah, I think with these whole cost caps that maybe the drivers should get paid less. That was a very interesting comment coming from him and him having one of the highest paid drivers. Like, I really think the FIA should come in and maybe, I don't even know, maybe put a cap on what the drivers get paid. Like, wow, that would be convenient for you, wouldn't it?
Jesus, it's so good. This is what I mean. Like,
this is why we do a show, to talk about this stuff.
Why did he say that? Like, what did he think the outcome was going to be?
Well, I don't think Lewis Hamilton was messaging him. Well done, good job after that one.
No, and because also what it does for them then is that it's like, cool. So then there'll be no incentive either for my really good drivers to leave because they'll be paid the same. Because everyone at the top teams, if there was a cost cap, they'd all be paid the same. Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen, they would all be on exactly the same wages, the top wages, because the cost cap would only be the salary cap would be in such a way that it was that. What you could do is you could put a salary cap on the entire team, which is essentially the cost cap. But for some reason, I'm pretty sure that the cost cap doesn't include wages or driver wages. And we never really hear much about contracts and how much they're worth. And how, like, we hear a little bit about what we expect, what we think drivers are being paid, and it's always so much money. But so much of their money comes from like because Formula One's all about sponsorship. It comes from like image rights.
That's what I mean,
and all the things. So it's not always. It's pretty much never really paid. I'm sure that it's most of that. It's probably not even paid. Like most of the fucking big teams, it's not really paid by the manufacturer. They're taking their sponsorship money. Like example, Ferrari, like Shell are paying Charles Leclerc, really, because Shell and Formula One probably as well are paying Charles Leclerc because Ferrari gets so much money from the sport itself.
Yes.
That, they can, he can get paid huge amounts of money because Ferrari's not actually taking from their pot of, development funds and paying the driver. They're taking it from all of their sponsorship funds and going and they pitch them. And they're like, well, your sponsorship's going to cost 100 million of Ferrari because 80 million of that is actually Charles Leclerc's wages.
It's going to go straight to him.
Yeah. That's why pay drivers exist. I'm sure that, I don't really know how much Red Bull is actually paying Perez. Or if the sponsorship money he brings in then just pays his wages and some of the team costs. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to think so, but I don't know. I couldn't tell you the details, but I think you're pretty right. I don't think they're out of pocket having him there at all.
So how would the cost cap even work, Toto? Idiot.
Yeah,
God.
Get over it, mate. So you and I, before we started recording today, discussed the Monaco Grand Prix and how you hadn't maybe been fully across the details. You've had other things going on. It's fine. I watched it, and I have one word that I would like to sum up the stewarding and the race directorship by, which is fucked. F-U-C-K-E-D. Okay. Fucked. It was fucked. Do you know anything about this with the race not starting on time and the rain? And did you hear any of this controversy?
Bits and snippets. I watched the highlights.
Sure.
And it kind of... None of that was in there. The highlights start off with David Croft being like, and the stewards have decided we'll start behind the safety car. And we're like, oh, okay. Well, fair enough. It seems pretty wet. Yeah. Race
time started, and it was announced the race will be postponed by 5 minutes, at which point it will start behind the safety car. And by then it had... the reason given was that it was going to rain. Not that it...
Oh, okay. I mean, that's a good reason.
Not that it was raining, but that rain was coming. And then that turned into, there's lots of rain. We won't be running the safety car. We will all just be sitting here. Literally, we sat around for half an hour and not a single thing happened. But I would remind you, the first 15 minutes of that, there was no rain. And then after a while, there was a bit of rain, but nowhere near enough that we shouldn't have been running. And, I mean, this is all part of this whole restructure with Michael Massey being shown the door and 2 race directors being put in. The first thing that anybody with a half a brain would have said is, this is going to be inconsistent. There's going to be disagreements. And guess what happened? There was a disagreement about how the race should be run by the 2 stewards, just clarifying, well, I think the rules work this way. Well, I think the rules work this way. And that's what completely screwed the Monaco Grand Prix.
So really, it was them fighting about it.
Part of it was them fighting about it. I'm not even saying they got it wrong or they didn't follow the regulations or anything like that. But it was just a debacle. It was just an absolute shambles sitting around waiting for the rain. It was like stopping at a green light in case it turned red. It was just fucked. And I was like, look, to start the race, if it rains, guess what? You can stop. You can always stop when it rains. But at least you started. And it may not be that bad. But I was just livid. I was just furious. And then there was all these problems with like Red Bull drivers like crossing the line at the pit exit, and they were like, oh no, they didn't cross the line. They were actually on the line. I'm like, well, no, part of their tyre crossed the line. And then teams were saying like, yeah, but you said before the race in the race notes, any driver that crosses the line will actually be penalised. And it's like, well, yeah, but the regulation has changed this year and you have to, more than half of the tyre has to cross for it to count as crossing. It's like, but you told us you couldn't do that. It's really bad. It's really poor. It's the race directorship and the stewarding. Well, I think the stewarding too, but I'm talking more, I guess, about the race directorship. Really, really bad. And Monaco was the worst example so far.
Yeah, I think so much of this stuff, it's a bit like drivers are leaving the track so they're having lap times deleted, these kinds of things. We've talked about this endlessly, right? It's like, yeah, you just set it down. It's like if you like leave the track, it means this. If you've got all four wheels off the track, well, what's the track? What counts as the track? It's like and you know what? You're in charge as the race director and the FIA and the stewards and the sport. You can decide what counts as the track. And you could even do that per race if you wanted to in the briefing on Thursday or Wednesday, whenever it is. But the reason, the powerful teams have so much weight within and so much clout that they don't want to, because they're part of the entertainment, without the team's consensus and without drivers being happy about how they should race, all that kind of stuff, creates blurred lines. So it's like, yeah, but Max can't drive really, really, really fast. Or through that specific section, everyone has to drive a little bit more slowly in order to stay on the track. Oh, that's really tricky. So they're like, okay, well at corner 14, what we mean by being on the track is one wheel half on the line on the runoff zone. That bit's okay, actually. Instead of just being like, well, fucking sort it out. Stay on the track. Or, crossing the line means you touch the line, that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know what from the outside viewer. And I think this is why things like Drive to Survive are really good, because they take away all this bullshit and you create a story that is more understandable for everybody, which I think is a good thing. But this is the stuff that all the teams are super concerned about, because they know that every point and every position on the grid can be decided by these kinds of things, like a 5-second penalty, 10-second penalty for just crossing the pit line. And sometimes there are mistakes and it doesn't actually affect the race at all. A driver can accidentally go over the line because he lost control of the car. Should they be penalised 5 seconds for doing that? Well, maybe. You made a mistake. That's the rule. That's it. But you could write rules that accommodate for all of that stuff too. They just, from the outside looking in, you're just like, why is this all so complicated for you guys? It seems so simple on the outside, and there's so much whataboutism. There's so much about oh, but in this circumstance that might happen specifically to our driver because we want to win, let them get away with it. It's just so fraught all the time. And you're right, by having two race directors now, we just end up with this confusion. I mean, I said, I think in our season review or preview podcast with Boxing Neutrals, I was like, why do we even know the names of these guys? Why do we, they shouldn't matter. They shouldn't have personalities. They shouldn't be people that we can appeal to emotionally or try to understand them psychologically. They should just be the independent arbiters of how the sports rules are enforced. They should never really be competing, because there should only be one outcome. If the rules don't lead to one interpretation, then you need to look at how the rules are set up. You need to rewrite the rules then if there's too much interpretation in them. I actually think that something like cricket's done a really good job of taking traditional rules that were very much about interpretation and being very clear about how they should be done. LBW is always really unclear. And it's is it on? Is it out? It's well, okay, we're going to use DRS now, and we're going to use Hawkeye, and these are the rules. If the umpire thought it was out and it's a bit sketchy on the replay and using the technology and it's kind of close, then we're going to have it as out. If the umpire thought it wasn't out and it was a bit sketchy and we're unsure, then it's not out. Easy to understand. Everybody has to abide by those rules, and there's no appealing to the sports director about maybe this time it should actually be in. Here's my drawing on paint about why
you said to me last Thursday that if I was half across the line that it would be cool, and now you're turning around and you're not being cool.
And what do we mean by a line, really?
Yeah, how do you define a line? Is the line the line, or is it outside the line?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, it's a good call. I hadn't thought about that.
Sport.
The way that technology in cricket, I would say tennis as well, they've both used technology to refine the rules and clarify them rather than introduce more murkiness. And I feel like rules are getting so murky these days in Formula One.
You just have to pick the compromise and then say, this is the compromise. This is the rule. We say the outside of the line is the line. Or when we say you cross the line, that means the line is not part of the crossing. It's if you have anything over the line, that's crossing the line. That's
what crossing the line is.
I know.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I did want to call out Monaco in particular because it was a very frustrating.
I think you said Monica. I'm like, who's this Monica? Why are you calling her out?
And Chandler.
Monaco.
And Monaco in particular. And I also was looking at other things that I wanted to talk about. In particular, there's like a through line between all of this, which is like the driver dynamics and in particular the role of the second driver, the rise or fall of the second driver in all these teams, including Verstappen and Perez, because I think the dynamics here are very good. I think Perez is really coming good. He obviously won in Monaco, really upset Charles Leclerc. I mean, upset in the sporting sense, but also
he's always upset.
Upset in the sense that, the guy has never left Monaco happy.
He's the new Verstappen, Charles Leclerc. It's like, it's all there for him. The king in waiting. It's just like, come on, I just need things to go my way. And Max Verstappen's like, things go my way.
I would hold up things like not just Perez winning in Monaco though, but also the 1 and 2 in the driver standings. Perez and Verstappen are finding themselves in a situation where Red Bull is regularly deploying team orders to get Perez out of the way of Verstappen, which is, you might look at that and go like, what a cuck. Except that it's a good sign.
I would never do that.
Well, somebody would. But the thing is that Perez is there and Perez is right with him. And Perez, I mean, if Perez wasn't driving well, then the Red Bull wouldn't need to deploy those team orders. So what I'm saying is it's validation in a way that like he's doing such a good job that they have to tell him, look, you're doing too good a job. You're making Max look a bit slow. So please slow down yourself. I just think that that's validating for him. So after a bit of a shaky start, I think he's come really, really good. Any thoughts on the Verstappen-Perez dynamic at the moment?
Yeah, I think you should name Cheecuck Perez. I think that's a good move. I think rebrand. I think this was always the plan, right? When it was announced that they might be, when the rumors were swirling that he might go to Red Bull, everyone went like, oh yeah, actually, yeah, that's good because he's not going to expect to be world champion.
Yes.
But he's pretty good and he brings a loads of cash and stuff and he goes in as a clear number 2. Yeah, that'll work. And it worked. I mean, like I said, on the record, I think that'll be the deciding factor last year, and it was. And I think this year it is again. And I think if anything, he's gotten better, which is great. The car's coming towards him. The new formula suits him. And unlike Bottas and unlike other second drivers, you could even say Carlos Sainz right now, Perez can win races. And this weekend, that just passed at Baku, there was a time when it looked like he might. And then they swapped them, and then they were like, Chico, could you just basically stop accelerating, and then Verstappen put a 20-second gap on him. I was like, I don't think that car was actually that much quicker. It might have been.
I don't know,
but
maybe.
I don't think it was. I think that was just like, let's just make this super clear that we're going to get maximum points for maximum Verstappen.
Maximum Verstappen. I think it definitely happened.
I'm sure they were probably a little bit annoyed that he got fastest lap, Perez, actually. They're a bit like, I'm glad
I think
no one
I
else got
tipped
it.
him
But
in fantasy to get fastest lap. I don't remember.
No.
But, I think I did. Because I didn't factor him into the podium. And I'm always like, whoever's not in the hunt for the podium, he'll probably get fastest lap. But not always.
Interesting.
You mentioned Carlos Sainz here. I don't have him on the list. But, I think the problem with Ferrari, and obviously Leclerc is driving circles around Sainz right now. But the big problem there is just that their car's not finishing. Finishing the races is the big problem. It's not even a driver dynamic thing. It's a wheel dynamic and an engine dynamic thing. In that
Team
it's not
versus
very
driver
dynamic. Yes,
dynamic.
exactly. But the next one I had on the list was Norris and Ricciardo. I think this dynamic is really interesting because Norris is way ahead on points. Hugely ahead on points. To the degree that when Ricciardo gets 8th, they're like, yes, big points. He's back in the points for the Honey Badger. 8th, big P8. Really? Is that good? He used to win races, remember? You brought him in because he had such experience.
Please,
yes.
He needs this.
Well, that was an interesting one because I think there was a bit of from the last race in Azerbaijan, there was a big uproar about Norris slowing down Ricciardo, which he did, and I thought that was stupid, and I thought it was wrong. But then at the end of the race, I thought that Norris was a bit out of line to be like, yeah, I know that he slowed down while I was in front, but that was a strategy thing, and now I want to overtake him because that's a results thing. I'm like, but the strategy is what gets the result.
It was always results.
That's why it's a strategy. It's a strategy for getting a good result. So I thought that, I mean, when these two finished 1-2 in Monza a while ago, and, Norris was sort of trying it on like, oh, I'm a little bit faster than Daniel. Maybe I should win instead of him. And they were like, no, sorry. I didn't blame him then for just asking the question. But I thought at Azerbaijan he was a bit rude to ask that one.
Yeah, I think that is maybe a symptom of the dynamic actually has shifted. I think this is a case of no smoke without fire. I think that the dynamic within McLaren is firmly like Lando Norris. He is our future world champion.
It's true.
He's the guy.
He's the man. He's the number one. He's the number one driver at that team.
Yeah, and Daniel Ricciardo, he might not even be here next season.
Also fine, but maybe.
And it's it's hard for us to make this car work for him, especially when he's not driving with full confidence or anything like that. He's kind of under a personal cloud. And I think, if anything, we've noticed that, like, from the interviews he gives and what he said on things like Drive to Survive and all that kind of stuff, he's been under an emotional load about his career since the end of his Red Bull stint.
It's true.
And who said to me the other day? Somebody said to me, he hasn't made a good decision since then. Like, really hasn't made a good one. Even the switch to McLaren, on the face of it, is kind of it's kind of good, but it hasn't turned out very well. And maybe he shouldn't have gone to a team that had he should have been able to foresee the future that where Lando was the number one driver at that team. And it's kind of passed him by now. And I think he's come to terms. We are seeing in slow motion Daniel Ricciardo come to terms with the fact that there was a point in his career where he could have been on a track to be a world champion, and somewhere through partly his fault and partly through the sports and not his fault, it disappeared. And it never seemed like it at the time, but I think we'll be able to go back to his career and be like, that's the moment that he was never going to be world champion. And I think
a seat just never opened up for him, though. I mean, it was only ever going to open up at Ferrari, but I mean, really,
it was Leclerc doing well at Sauber.
Leclerc got in, yeah, exactly. Once Leclerc got into there, it was always going to be him, and then there was never a seat at Mercedes until this year when it was too late. And then Red Bull, well, that was always Max, wasn't it? That if it wasn't those three, it was going to have to be a fluke. So I think he was just, hoping. Yeah,
he needs a Jensen Button fluke, right? He needs a new team to enter the sport. That's amazing. That could have been, I think he was kind of hoping that might have happened at Renault, that they got it right when they went their own engine way. And then it was like, and then as soon as he kind of as soon as it looked like it wasn't going to take that massive jump, or that they weren't going to have this great first season in the new formula. But then also bad luck again at McLaren, where it's also just not very good. Like the new power units are not good for them, and even Mercedes, with all of their technical and resourceful might, cannot make that car really do very well. It's like, what chance do the other Mercedes powered teams have? Like, if you're already working with one hand behind your back, you're in real strife. So yeah, he's not even doing a very good second driver job, Daniel Ricciardo, right now.
No, well, not with the expectation that there is on him from the team and from just fans who just want to see him do well, and they think of him as that guy who wins or gets on the podium, but he's not even doing that lately.
And he's cheery as well.
Yeah,
like
that
that took an approach to the sport that was light and airy, but also focused when he was racing. Like, they had the right drive, but it was also like, this is all a bit of fun and a bit silly, isn't it? But now he's more like, this is all a bit shit, isn't it? Like, I've kind of been fucked over here, and I've still got to race in a car that doesn't suit me while I'm not racing that well at a team that has not exactly come out backing me perfectly, with a co-driver who's quite loved by a new style of fan and by the new teamers and all that kind of stuff. He's not the same personality anymore, which is rough. It's rough to come to terms with that.
Yeah, you don't like to see it. Someone who might have to come to terms with something soon is Nicholas Latifi, because the next driver pairing on my list is Albon and Latifi. I mean, we don't always talk about rumours, because it's always like, who gives a shit about rumours? Because more than half the time they turn out not to be true. Strong rumours that Oscar Piastri will be in that seat instead of Latifi. Could be next year, could be this year. I don't want to dwell too long on that for the reasons that I just gave. But we used to compare Nicholas Latifi against George Russell. We always knew, though, that George Russell was like the heir to the throne, to the Mercedes throne. He was under Mercedes Daddy's wing. But with Russell gone, now he's got Alex Albon to be compared against, and he's really struggling. He's had a really average year, has Nicholas Latifi, and I think, as silly as it is to think of a backmarket team having a number 2 driver, he is really just looks all at sea. So I wonder if it would almost be a bit of a mercy thing to just give him a spell out of the car, even just put someone else in for a month or so, or 2 months. And then if you're Oscar Piastri or if you're Alpine, you'd be looking at them going, oof, boy, I wouldn't mind getting Piastri into a car for a few races this year, maybe a full year next year, and then the year after that, who knows where he'll be off to. Yeah,
it's tricky. It's very tricky. That kind of driver swapping in and out, I think, is interesting when you're not winning races and you're like having a stable of drivers is maybe a cool idea. I sometimes wonder why teams who are probably more focused on their Constructors' Championship maybe don't pick horses for courses. I wonder about that. Are you allowed to do that? You're allowed to just take... Yeah, I'm sure you are. It doesn't matter. You can take out a driver and put in a different driver on a whim.
It's a little bit, though, I mean, this is turning into a cricket podcast, but it's a bit like in cricket when a batsman is like in a bit of a confidence slump and they're like, look, this batsman's having a bit of a confidence slump, so we've decided to drop him. And it's like, what's that going to do for his confidence? You know what I mean? Are you sort of it defeats the purpose
leaning
a little
in.
bit.
We're trying to reverse psychology him out of this.
Exactly. We're just trying to motivate him by kicking him out of the team. Yeah, I just don't really know. But I mean, I guess you could keep Latifi around for a while if you want for his moolah. But I mean, if you can get a deal from another team who's like, we really want to get some miles under this guy's belt before we nab him in 2 years, maybe you just get him in early. I just don't even know.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up to Canadian Grand Prix. Maybe Latifi will have a change of heart in his hometown.
I'd love to see it.
Sorry. Yeah, exactly. I'm
Stroll not so much, but Latifi, sure.
I'm currently deciding whether to go back to make my joke about rumours and about why we don't comment on rumours.
Yes.
And it's because rumours are fleeting and they make you do... No, it's not quite there. And would make... So rumours are fleeting and they would make you have bad decisions. Is that something? Yeah, I think it was worth it. Yeah.
Almost as good as the... this is like one of my all-time favourite jokes from Flight of the Conchords, where they're like, once you have all of the bandmates sleeping with each other, it's just like the band, Fleetwood Mac, when they made that album, and they're like, rumours. They're like, no, it happened. I love it. It just doesn't get better than that. Anyway, next driver pairing that I want to talk about is M. Schumacher Jr. and M. Magnussen K. K-Mag. He came in rusty, but he has been driving rings around Michael Schumacher. And I just wonder what has happened, because Michael Schumacher came in, he only had to beat Mazepin, which he did handily, and everyone was like, well, this kid's good. He's destined for a Ferrari championship here. But now K-Mag's come in, and all of a sudden... Boy, this was not part of the script, I'll tell you.
Was this ever going to work out differently, though? Like, was Mick Schumacher ever going to just walk into Formula 1 and be like, I am fucking the boss. Like, I'm amazing. That's
what I mean. Like, it looked, for a little while, like maybe that was going to happen. But, I mean, now it's gone the way that so many of the, other than maybe Verstappen, the son of a former Formula 1 great comes into the sport for about 6 months. And then they're like, oh, whoops, we've made a bad mistake. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, he's even under pressure as well. Like, he just crashes all the time. And Haas are like, we don't have any money. You can't... Like, when you crash, could you not, like, wreck the car? Like, could you not... Like, your crash
Unfortunately, what we spend is only 10% of the cost cap. But still, we don't have the money to give you for more cars. So stop crashing them.
Do you think this... I'd be interested in your opinion of this, and this is just my hypothesis coming to me right this second. This is hot off the dome. Do you think that really good GP Formula 2 drivers who have success in Formula 2, they're at teams where the car is really, really, really good. And then usually those people don't just step into the best cars in Formula 1. They usually step into the worst cars in Formula 1, where things are bad. And, like, there's not good traction. And, like, it doesn't go very fast. And the seat's uncomfortable. And you don't get updates every week and all that kind of stuff. Maybe they're not as prepared for that as, like... And, of course, they aren't going to be that successful. And really, I think that the only indicator of success, I think, of young drivers is... Or I think the best indicator of excellent drivers when they're young is to do well at teams that aren't very good.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Mick Schumacher is showing us that. And as you said, it looked like it when it was Mazepin there. But now it's Magnussen, who's pretty excellent, actually, at ringing results out of cars that aren't very good.
Well, he's done that for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. And so now, look, we haven't had that many races, but I think we've had enough now with Mick to be like, well, that Haas car's not horrible. Are you overdriving it? Are you trying to treat it like it's a better car than it actually is? You're not very good, maybe, at finding the limit and staying there, as opposed to finding the limit and then being like, I can get more, and then it just completely totaling it.
Yeah, I don't know. I think to go back to the original point, which was what happens to drivers when they do well in Formula 2 and then they come into Formula 1. And I think the problem is the metric for success in Formula 2 is to go fast and win. The metric of success in Formula 1, especially if you're not in one of the front running or even the midfield teams, which is like the normal field, but it's like a bit mid, you know what I mean? But if you're a back market team, there's thousands of metrics for success, which is, improve through this corner, improve over a race weekend, improve in areas where, we've given you feedback about what your teammate is doing.
Get into Q2.
You take that on, get into Q2, exactly. The measurements for success, there's 1,000 things. And if you don't succeed in most of them, you're deemed sort of a failure. So I think it's just a totally different world. But I mean, Formula 1 is also such a hype machine that we've seen drivers come in and, not perform very well and inexplicably succeed and get carried around for a while. So I don't really know.
I think it sometimes, more and more, I am of the opinion that resources and luck play a huge, like an outweighted, they're the bigger influence on success than solely driver skill. Put that in the so true section, Zach. But look at Lance Stroll. Like, he's perfectly reasonable. Like, he was an okay driver.
He's fine.
But I haven't looked closely enough at his career before Formula 1 to be like, but how good were the teams that he was at? Like, would Lance Stroll be a really good driver right now in that Haas? I don't think so. And, the Aston Martin's fine. And he's a fine driver. And maybe he's not a driver who pushes it too far to limits. I think actually he's probably grown up a little bit as a driver. He's not as like, I'll just crash into that guy and it'll be fine. No, it will not be fine. It's going to be bad, actually. I would actually put, Lance is just in a like, he's so mid now, but he doesn't have the ability or skill to kind of go any higher than he is right now. And I don't think he'd be in the sport unless his daddy owned the team. And I wonder if Mick Schumacher wasn't Mick Schumacher, if they would still be at the end of the season going, you know what? We've got this we've got, let's say, Piastri coming through. Maybe we should stick him in the car. But I don't think they think that way because it's Mick Schumacher. And I actually think that brings its own pressure because I think he knows that too.
He brings in the sponsorship dollars, though, which is, I'm sure, something we'll cover on Drive to Survive when that comes around.
I mean, he does, but I don't hear anybody being like, I'm a really big Mick Schumacher fan. I don't.
No, that's what I mean.
I've never heard anyone say.
I mean, maybe if we were in Germany, we'd see him on every billboard or something, but I don't know. Well, he's not my bubble. But I tell you, I see Daniel Ricciardo everywhere, and he's not going so well. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
I don't know if you've got anything else you want to bring to the table before we hop into the Superquiz zone.
Nah, let's hop in.
Let's do it.
We will accept a couple of questions.
Should one only win one? Would one want to have won that one in round one?
Can you repeat the question?
The Superquiz, Zach, it's been a little while. I tell you, I can't even think of the last time I had to answer questions about something, so I don't know. I'm just saying, before we get into this, I may not do so well.
Okay, you're saying you're rusty, like a Kevin Magnussen.
Super rusty.
But you hope to perform as mid as Kevin Magnussen. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. This is the F1 cost cap it off quiz because it's happening towards the end of the show. So we're going to start with a question about the driver's cap or helmet, if you prefer. This first question comes thanks to our not sponsors but very good friends, f1authentics.com. It's going to be a multiple choice question.
Just keeps coming back. On my tomb, it's going to say, "Here lies Rodney Gordon," and sponsored by F1 Authentics.
It's a signed tombstone. So, two helmets. These are full-size replica helmets, both signed by their prospective drivers. One, Lewis Hamilton helmet. Two, a Pierre Gasly helmet.
Ooh.
I would like you to tell me the price difference between these two helmets. Is it A, £500 difference, B, £5,000 difference, or C, £15,000 difference?
I mean, I can't even imagine what they are selling for, but for there to be $500 difference in pounds, sorry, £500 sounds not, that doesn't sound right. I won't go to the very deep end of the pool. So what was the middle option again? Is it
£5,000?
Okay, £5,000.
It is £15,000 difference.
So many pounds.
Pierre Gasly's signed replica helmet, official, £5,000 or £4,999. Special price for you. Lewis Hamilton's is £19,999. It's a lot of cash. Yeah, and it is purple though.
Yeah, and Pierre Gasly's one was signed by Pierre Gasly. Although, what was he printed as in that newspaper? Like Pietro Casello? Did you see this?
Oh,
I'll look it up in a sec.
Is this an
hit me with the next question while I look it up.
Question number 2. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions this week. This show. Question number 2. I need you to match up the prices of these cars with the cars themselves. So this is Formula 1 cars, past Formula 1 cars that have gone up for auction and have been purchased. So how much might it cost to buy an old Formula 1 car or a past Formula 1 car? So I need you to match up the cars with the prices. These are the prices: £250,000, £1.1 million, and £4.8 million.
Oh my gosh!
So 250. Just let's call it 251 and 5.
Okay.
Easy enough, right? $250,000, $1 million, or $5 million. And these are the cars. So we have a 1993 Benetton that was driven by Michael Schumacher. We have a 2007 Red Bull driven by Mark Aussie Grit Webber. And then we have a 2010 McLaren that was driven by Lewis Hamilton. Nothing really notable about the 2000. So the 1993, obviously driven by Mark Schumacher. That's pretty cool. That's kind of one for the, I knew this band before they were cool kind of
yes,
collector.
Very much.
The 2007 Red Bull, that was the first Red Bull Mark Webber drove, and it was a pretty good season for him and that Red Bull. And then the 2010 McLaren, there's nothing notable about that other than it was driven by Lewis Hamilton. An okay season, but it wasn't anything to write home about. So they're the cars. Numbers again, 251 and 5.
And these numbers, these costs, are they what they're selling for, or are these what they have sold for?
This is what they've recently sold for.
Recently sold, okay, cool.
Actually, the Benetton is up for auction right now.
GoFundMe?
Yeah, sure. We could maybe enter it in some races as well. Some old races.
Well, we've got to get that money back somehow.
Yeah.
The $250,000, that'll be Webber's car, I reckon.
Okay.
You were sort of underselling the McLaren. You're like, his season wasn't even that good, and there's nothing notable about it other than Hamilton drove it. I mean, the question is, has Lewis Hamilton's stocks these days 5 times Michael Schumacher's stocks? I'll say yeah.
Well, based on the helmet, based on F1 Authentics helmets. Maybe.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm going on. So let's say the $5 million is for Hamilton's one, and the $1 million is for Schumacher's one.
Nailed it. Ding, ding, ding. All 3.
Boom, boom, boom.
I rack them up, you knock them down. That was amazing. Good work. Good work.
I'm going to back myself sometimes.
I took that. Yeah. I mean, that Red Bull price was from an article about, how expensive is it to buy an old F1 car? And it was this guy who essentially bought it for $250,000 and was like...
Not that much, it turns out.
It turns out cars that aren't that special, not that much. You can get them. But yeah, so interesting. Some of them still go. Like the Benetton fully works, it's got the engine and everything like that. You can drive it around.
Just don't let Charles Leclerc drive it.
Don't let Charles Leclerc drive it. He'll break the brake discs. Okay, question number 3. What's more expensive, Rod? The rear wing or the front wing of a current F1 car?
Oh, let's go the front wing.
It is the front wing, £300,000. The rear wing is half that.
Oh, really?
I thought the rear wing, because it's got moving bits, that it might be more expensive, but I think it's just less important. I think the front wing does all of the aerodynamic work.
I mean, yeah.
Fiddly stuff.
I mean, I feel like if I was like hanging off the edge of a skyscraper or something and I had to rely on one or the other, I would want the rear wing. But, I mean, there's just more going on. There's just more curves to appreciate in the front wing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's charged by vortices or ellipses or something, probably, maybe. I don't know. Did you see this week at Baku with Pierre Gasly's rear ring half broke? Like the DRS was half dragging.
I think it was,
came in and they taped it up before the FIA guy got down there. And they're like, quick, stand up, go, it's all fine.
I think it was Sonoda's. And they some bizarro flag that's like a black one with a turquoise circle with orange polka dots or something. But I guess it means like, get that car off the track. So they did. And I'm thinking, well, they're going to retire it. But no, out came the silver gaffer tape and back out he goes before the FIA is like, just like the guy from the FIA was like shaking his fist in the pit lane. Oh, I'll get you next time, Tsunoda, or whatever it was.
Yes.
So, yeah, unfortunate.
So good. Okay, question number 4, Rod. On a wet race day in Spa, 1998, a crash estimated to cost $13 million occurred. For 2 points, who started the incident and how many cars were involved?
Well, I think at the time there were 16 cars on the grid starting that race.
Ooh.
And I think 12.
Because you were there, because you're so old.
Watched it. This was very formative in my Formula One watching. I think 12 were involved in, like, they were undrivable. But the thing is that back then they had a third car, so about half of those drivers got to go and run and jump in a second car. So my guess would be. Was the part of the question is who started it? The other part of the question is how many cars? So my guess is 12 cars were wiped out. I might be wrong, but I mean, that's how I remember it. If you've seen the replay, it's incredible. You've got to watch this. I think 12 cars got wiped out. That's probably too many. But anyway, my guess is 12. Who started it? Was it Mika Häkkinen who slipped and spun and hit someone? Someone spun and hit someone. I remember that. So my guess is Mika Häkkinen.
You are so close on both of them.
Oh, so it was
a second bite at the cherry.
It was Coulthard who started it?
Yep.
It was one of the McLarens because they dominated that season, and I was like, "Oh, but you screwed that quarter though." And then, all right, so maybe it wasn't 6. Maybe that's way too many. 16 out of the 12. Maybe it was closer to like 8 cars.
It was 13. You were 13. So
oh no, I went the wrong way.
13 cars. You went the wrong way. That's fine.
Oh,
you know what?
It is incredible.
That question was worth 2 points. You did enough good work to get 1 point.
Go, everybody! If you haven't seen it, go and watch the start of that 1998 Spa Grand Prix. Incredible.
Mental. It's pretty wet.
It's a really good race. A really, really good race.
Yeah. There we go.
Delivers.
F1 Classics. Maybe we should watch that race and we should do that and do some recap over the break.
Absolutely.
Watch a couple of old races. We've done a little bit of that in the past.
Definitely.
I remember watching an old race, a 1995 race or something, on my iPad on a train somewhere. Maybe
I think that was that. I watched that whole 1998 season. I think it was one of those.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So, question number 5.
Yeah.
Speaking of cost caps and missing races, which team missed the last 3 races of the 2014 season due to lack of funds?
Was it Caterham?
2014. It was not Caterham. Have another go. Similar kind of team.
Manor?
Yeah, let's say Manor. I mean, because they were Marussia, but they were
Marussia.
Manor
they were
next season, and they were.
Yeah. So was it Marussia or Manor?
It was Marussia. Yeah.
Marussia. Okay.
Yeah. Another Russian-owned team trying to get into the sport via crap cars. Yeah. Feels like I pulled that from a list of like team bankruptcies in the early 2000s, so 2000 to 2010. It was like a bankruptcy like every year.
Yeah,
like there was 1 or 2 teams every single year, whether it was Arrows, whether it was Spider, whether it was Marussia, whether it was Minardi. In fact, they're probably all the same team at this point. Caterham, like teams just coming in and out of Formula One, like being in Formula One for like 2 years and then being like, can't make it work. And I just feel like no one has done that in Formula One recently, other than Vijay Mallya, like being basically caught out for fraud and having to have his assets seized, and so in that team turning into Racing Point and now Aston Martin. Can't really think of many other team bankruptcies. Like Sauber weren't bankrupt. They were just like, oh, well, Alpha wants to buy us and we can kind of still be involved. Like, can you think of anybody else who's left the sport in the last 4 or 5 years?
I guess teams have changed hands or had huge overhauls. I mean, you think of Williams getting sold, but obviously they're still around. They didn't have to haul ass. They didn't miss races. No, they weren't bankrupt, exactly. Yeah. So no, I mean, I think the sport's been pretty stable, which has been a good thing, by and large.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's attracting more teams, because they're like, actually, there's recurring revenue there. We can make work. Mm-hmm. It's so popular. Yeah. Yep.
Thanks, Liberty.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Liberty. You did it.
Excellent.
Question number 6. The last question.
Okay.
The bull sculpture. You know this one at the Red Bull ring?
Oh, yes.
The big bull jumping through the big ring.
It's a big bull.
The big arch thing. It's made of steel called Core 10 special rusting steel. That's why it's made from this steel that rusts and gets this protective rust layer on it. And it's like a living material. It's quite cool. That's why I actually like this sculpture quite a lot. It weighs 42 tons, Rod. 42 ton. How much do you reckon all that steel costs?
Oh, let me think. Last time I bought a ton of steel. Ooh.
And I used an online calculator where I could buy steel retail, this Core 10 steel.
You're paying retail prices?
Yeah, I'm paying retail price, and and it wouldn't let me buy 42 tons, so I had to buy the heaviest weight and then do maths to multiply it out.
There you go. I just think I don't know. I have had moments in my life where I've had to flip cars for scraps and scrap metal, and
so strong.
You don't get very much, but that's probably not a retail price. So I don't even know. Let's say it's maybe something like $20,000. That's my guess. $20,000
for 42 tons.
Sure, why not?
Okay. It's about 10 times that. It's £280,000.
There you go.
It's so
this
much
is special
steel.
rusting steel. He didn't say it was rusting steel.
It was Core 10 rusting steel. Core 10. That's the super quiz. I think you did. If my memory serves, you did pretty well.
I think I was right in the middle of that one. I think I just didn't want to show off too much by getting them all right, and just got around it.
So mid.
So I found the reference to not Pierre Gasly, to Pedro Gaseso. This is a tweet. I don't even know who this person is, but they tweeted, "My brother just sent me this from a newspaper from Spain. Why the heck are they calling Pierre Gasly Pedro Gaseso?" And it's got all of the results. I guess it's in Spanish because he's in Spain. Verstappen, Sergio Perez, George Russell, Louis Hamilton, Pedro Gaseso. And then
these are their names
and so
in
on.
a different language.
Exactly. It's the different language, mate. That's why his name is not that.
Yeah. Yes. I think we've talked about this before, because in my first year of French in high school, my French teacher gave us all, took our names and Frankified them. So Michael's became Michel's and all this kind of stuff. Got to Zachary, she's like, there's no equivalent in Zachary in French. So
what would you like to be? Mr. Zip?
Now as an adult, I'm like, that's bullshit. Of course there is. Mr. Zip, thank you very much.
There you go.
And she was like, you'll be Xavier. I was like, I suppose it's got a Z sound at it, but that's Xavier. That's not my name.
That is
but that's
Xavier,
me.
yeah.
That's what I became. Je m'appelle Xavier.
Well, is that what you say when you go to France?
Yeah. I introduce myself in every store that I go in. I'm like, je m'appelle Xavier. Je suis l'homme.
Hello, my name is Xavier. I will be dining here this evening. I would like, let me see, a big beer, please. Big beer. And free bread.
You've got to say it with the accent. This is my favourite thing that people do when they go to foreign countries. So they think that saying it in English, but with the accent of the place, is somehow going to help.
Yeah.
Like a beer. What I would like is a steak.
Steak. Sticker.
Yeah, sticker,
Mukau.
It's great. Or say it slower and more staccato, more
louder.
Oh goodness, yeah, louder. Louder will help.
Louder's always a good one, so that they know.
Coffee,
I speak English.
but ear,
coffee. Heard of it? Thank you so much for the super quiz. That was excellent. I think it's time for us to start wrapping this up, which means we've got a couple of quick stories to finish with, a couple of outies. My idea for a quick outie was to have a look at this F1 game that's been announced, which is in VR. Have you seen this? It's in VR now.
I have been.
Well, it has a VR option where you can put on VR goggles, sit in a little, if you're so equipped, sit in a chair with pedals and a steering wheel, look around. It's like you're in a car. Have you ever done a VR driving experience like that?
No, I haven't. Have you?
It's real good. Yeah. I went to a VR place that was just like decked out with all kinds of VR experiences, but they had cars, and we got in and they were kind of doing like rinky-dink, like Mickey Mouse kind of like Daytona style racing, and me and another guy who were really into F1, we were like, yeah, come on, man, we're into F1. Like, can you soup this up a little bit? And I was also like secretly thinking, like, I don't want him to do that because I'm actually really horrible at these kind of sim driver games, but it was really immersive, just really surprisingly cool to sit in what feels like a car and then look around and feel like you're moving around on a track. Really, really good. So, I'm all about it. But I did also wonder whether the emergence of this VR style gaming experience might have been the impetus for this new helmet cam that we have for the drivers, where they look around and you get a feel for what it's like to be in the driver's seat during the race. But it's like, oh, well, now you can buy the game and, be in the game EA style.
If you buy the Mercedes Racing Seat Pack edition as well, it just like hammers your lower back. It just bounces up and down really hard.
Well, that's a good point. People did point that out, whether it was going to be so realistic that when you drive down the straight, if it just bounces up and down, I don't know.
Yeah, you feel sick.
Yeah.
VR, maybe I can do it. I've done a little bit of VR, and I can do it for short amounts of time. And then my brain has enough, and it goes, you know what? It's weird that that we're not in charge. I think what it is that it's like we're not in charge of the focus of the camera. So in real life, your eyes, what you see, you're actually focusing on as well. But when you are looking in a VR screen, it is choosing the focus for you.
Sometimes.
So you can look at something and you're like, oh, that's not... Like if I move my eyes, I'm like, I should be able to focus on that, but my vision hasn't changed. Like it's not eye tracking me. It's using my head tracking to work out what I'm looking at, not my eyes.
I have this problem
you
when
don't
I watch
always move
VR.
your head to look at everything.
I have that problem when I watch 3D movies. I haven't really had it in VR that much, but maybe I'm playing the wrong games.
No, I actually think that a lot of the time as well, if you just put a reticle in the middle of the screen, it really helps. I've seen that too. Just turn that on and off. And you can have something there that your mind can kind of keep as, okay, that's the center of my field of vision. I'll just stay there. I'd love to do this though. I didn't, no one reached out for this new Formula One manager game to us to offer us a free copy or a test or anything like that. I was a little bit disappointed,
We're open to it though.
More than open. If you can be more than open.
Bribable, you could say.
I mean, I'm not in the game of handing out 1-star reviews is all I'm going to say.
Not for sponsors anyway.
I mean, right now, yes. Definitely 1 star. Have not played it.
Last thing I wanted to do before we wrap up this week's show is to have a quick look, check in on the Fantasy League. We just said we'll have a super quick look at the Fantasy League. I've got here the overall league standings, and I can tell you the top 3. In position, the number 3, Total Control Racing by Mel Ross. Position, the number 2, Suck My Housemate by Fluge. And
you're back.
Dominating, number 1, Leclerc Dynamics by Tim T. Brown. I know that I had a decent-ish race last time out, but having said that, I also know that overall I'm not going so well in the league, sort of back of the midfield as kind of always. I think that we're both in the 40s. You're in position number 42, Zero Engineering, Bazak Priest. I'm in the high 40s somewhere.
47, I can see you. There you are.
Yeah, so True Racing, RW Gordon. So, I mean, we both, as always, have to lift a little bit, but thank you everyone who's taking part in the Fantasy League. You're all doing much better than us.
Very well. Yeah, exactly. Good work, and thanks for taking part. We really enjoy it. My last outing, Rod, Canadian Grand Prix. Pancakes, yes or no?
Well, this is the thing. Someone has changed the scheduling for the Canadian Grand Prix away from the long weekend in Melbourne, so I don't get the Monday off. Like it used to be, get up at 4 a.m., watch the Canadian Grand Prix, have delicious pancakes afterwards for breakfast, but now I'm going to have to go to work. It's just selfish that someone's done that.
I'm going to watch it at 7 p.m. on Sunday. Prime time.
While you're tucking in to short stack.
Pancakes for dinner, yes!
That's it, exactly. I might try on the Sunday morning, my time, to sneak out for some pancakes, but then it won't be... It won't have that race.
Prep the batter the night before. That way.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that.
Yeah, fully hydrated batter. I like it.
Tell us if you're tucking into some pancakes and send us a. This is a good tie-in. On the Discord, we have a snacks channel. So if you want to, if you've got some race snacks, we usually encourage people to post photos. But in particular, if it's pancakes, I want to see photos.
Exactly. No specific pancake channel, just the snacks channel.
Oh, and also in the Discord itself has introduced this new feature where they're going to have now voice channels, which is what we sit in when we record the show. We sit in the Discord voice channel. People can drop in if they want to listen, but before there was no way for them to contribute at all. We were always trying to work out a way for them to type chat messages to us, and Discord just didn't play ball. But they've changed their formula. They flipped the script, and they are going to have now text channels for voice channels, if you know what I mean. But that means this is like a world of possibility, and I've always wanted to do this, is more interaction with people as we're recording. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, there's never been a better time to check in on the Discord, and we'll try and put more like maybe announcements and stuff if people want that, so they can sit in and listen and maybe talk to us during the recordings. That would be fun.
Yes. Yeah, and we might pick specific recordings to do that for.
Sure, of course.
And then we might even, as that goes, we might even do more live reactions and stuff. I don't know. It's been a funny time these last few weeks.
It has.
Because of wedding and COVID and stuff like that. But, we're back on track.
We are back. Are we going to come back with another Dare to Swear soon?
Yeah.
Right.
Don't ask me. What would I know? I suppose I know. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Of course.
Cool.
Any excuse to Netflix and chill with you.
I'm the Emma Stone and you're the Joaquin Phoenix in this dynamic right now. We'll come back soon with another Dare to Swear, aka commentary of Drive to Survive, and we'll be back soon again with another race talk episode. There's going to be Canada coming up, and then I don't even know, some more races after that, probably Silverstone or something. So stay tuned for that, and we'll be back talking races again soon. Until then, Zach, are we all tapped out?
We're all tapped out.
Cap
it off.
Really good to talk to you again. It feels really good, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. Thanks for listening. Until next time, my name's been Rod.
My name's been Zach.
See you on the next Super License. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, yeah.